Welcome back with another banger. It's the React Files. Hope you having a good night. Let's get straight to it.
Only knew how much money they have taken from me, how much they have stolen from me. I should have been able to retire 20 years ago with the money I've made. But there are key people that have been driving the ships. And what they've been doing is improperly representing me, improperly stealing from me, taking things in their own hand, changing and switching lanes because they knew I didn't know that part. And even though they were taking care of themselves, they thought very little of taking care of me. One way or the other, universal music, you're going to have to give up my coins. So what I'm doing now is whatever is necessary to make sure they pay me for the legacy of my life, for my children and my grandchildren. They're going to have to give me my money. I mean, when you sit back and think Bruno Mars, Dr. Dre, when you think about all these people that have sampled music, if they're filthy rich on it, what's our problem? But everybody that works hard for 50 years should be able to retire in peace, should be able to sit back without looking for your money. And if I never get it, at least you heard it from me, because I don't know what they might do to keep from paying me all the money they owe me.
Yo, rest in peace, Angie Stone. You know, every day you'll hear at least one Angie Stone song on the radio. She deserved to be paid. It's crazy. Sound like many other legends who are trying to blow the whistle. My condolences to her family and all her fans.
Part 5 of the real-life Stranger Things happening in Romania. Our 11 character is now grown up. He's approached by this dark, mysterious man who reveals himself to be a member of the Bilderberg Group. He wants to recruit him based on his psionic abilities. And he explains that the Bilderberg Group is the top of the Freemason pyramid. And he explains that the 33 degrees of Freemasonry are simply an initiation. He said it could be broken down into 3 categories. And most of the 33 degrees is still level 1. These people are just useful tools. This includes newly wealthy people, professors, doctors, businessmen, politicians. They do the day-to-day work simply to maintain status, fight for their privileges, and to uphold the illusion of being part of the elite. They're driven by social recognition and a sense of superiority. But that they don't know anything of what's really going on. The second level is held for people with deeper government and political status. And then the third level is the true hidden elite. These people are unseen and untouchable. Caesar says, "Why would you try to recruit me to be part of the Bilderberg Group?" And he says, "You wouldn't qualify anyway. And you really have no choice in the matter. Because the way that they view the world is through 2 groups. The masses and those who try to shepherd the herd. And that this simple observation is how they've built their whole plan. And throughout all of history, going back thousands of years, there's always been a conflict between these 2 groups. And that they will always pander to both, because you can never lose when you're playing both sides of the game." He says that their power is hidden in charities and philanthropy, which help them to move large sums of money in a global financial monopoly. They force governments into massive debt, institutions like the World Bank and the IMF, that any individual reaching a high level of success will often be lured into their organization in the beginning of their careers. Now, for those who turn it down, they won't be able to hold out for too long, because if they resist their efforts, just completely bankrupt the person. When they're at their lowest, give them the second opportunity to join them. Most will then accept and then have a spectacular comeback in their business. And they do this on the small scale as well, to nearly every individual on the planet, through their jobs, houses, comforts, loans, car loans, keeping them in a vicious circle that they'll never be free from. Doing this through technology, synthetic drugs, which they promote with their Just Say No campaigns. He says this seems like an attack on humanity. Well, it's not easy to control billions of people, which is why one of their primary goals is to end population growth through the production of deadly viruses. And anybody who goes against them release false information about through their control of the media. And if the information's untrue, the harm is already done. In the last 20 years, they've started to come out to the center stage and deliberately send people out to say their message, mixing truth with lies. Often these people are in the second rank. Caesar knows he has no choice in this, so he pretends to be interested. The old man says that their greatest success was the United States of America, and that every single president is their choice, mostly belonging to the second rank. And the reason why this project of theirs was so successful is because of this idea of democracy. He says the concept of democracy itself is worthless. It stirs vanity in people and makes them crave power, but it only generates hatred and division. It gives the illusion of choice to each and every individual. Millions of people become stressed and crazed by the idea of their choice. It's the safest way to create chaos, because people joining together for positive and beneficial ideas is so dangerous and splits people into small groups. And the concept of freedom prevents them from revolting, where the third rank of this organization supports both sides of every disagreement. He He does clarify that democracy could be useful only if a civilization has reached a high level of understanding and understands universal knowledge. For the level that society is at right now, it just forces average people to become self-important and falsely convinces them that these political leaders actually rely on them and their opinions to make decisions. Due to Caesar's strong psionic abilities, he was able to protect himself in these moments. He said that this man's psychic frequency was so domineering, most people would have been lost in a hypnotic trance while speaking to him. But knowing he had no choice, Caesar decided to join the man, and a year later, the author of the book meets with him again. He has a very different perspective after being part of this organization and actually agreeing with a lot of its methods.
He ended up agreeing with a lot of their methods. This Caesar dude was no joke. Shout out to JK Ultra. I wasn't expecting her to go down as deep in his rabbit hole for sure. Feel like a lot of what that man just said is happening in our society right now. How ironic.
This is what would happen if you traveled 1 billion years into the past. Shorter days, no visible life, noxious gases in the atmosphere, bombarded by deadly ultraviolet rays from the sun with black sludgy oceans and barren land. The Earth just entered the Neo-Proterozoic era, and this is how long you'd be able to survive here. Everyone knows the survival rule of 3, stating as a general ballpark that we can survive about 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 hours without shelter in extreme environments, and 3 minutes without air. There's obviously exceptions, but it's a generalization. Let's run through that survival list and see how long you'd last on old Earth. Before we can do anything, we still have to be able to see. So will the sun still be there to give us light? Yes, it would, but a typical day would be around 18 hours instead of the usual 24, so we'd have to adjust to that. That is, if we can even survive until then, so let's start with food. Plants and animals, as we know today, basically don't exist yet at all. The Cambrian explosion, a period of rapid evolution that resulted in a lot of new forms of more complex life on Earth, wasn't set to happen for at least another 500 million years, so there wouldn't really be much to eat. Life existed pretty much only in the ocean as simple, single, or even multi-celled organisms and possibly some basic plants like algae. Yup, floating bacteria in the ocean is pretty much all we got for dinner. What about drinking water? How were the oceans like? Well, we actually kind of know exactly what they were like. Scientists found 2.7 billion year old water under Ontario, Canada that remained untouched by our atmosphere for at least 1 billion years. They took it up to study, and one brave soul actually tasted it herself, and it was nasty. Saltier than today's oceans, thicker than regular water, and it also turned orange when exposed to oxygen. This is what we call primordial soup, thick water filled with the early forms of microbial life. Great for kickstarting the theoretical process of evolution, not so much for drinking. What about shelter on old Earth? Could we at least protect ourselves from the elements? Well, a billion years ago, Earth would have been pretty flat. Big mountain ranges haven't had the chance to form yet on our shifting plates, so finding caves to shelter in would prove difficult. All land on the planet was a collection of land masses crammed closely together, forming the supercontinent of Rodinia? Yeah, not even Pangea. That wasn't set to form for another 700 million years. We've actually had a bunch of supercontinents on Earth, like Columbia, Rodinia, Pannotia, Gondwana, and then finally Pangea. In this case, it was Rodinia, surrounded by a superocean named Morovia. In these days, massive super earthquakes and super volcanoes were the norm, from how close together the tectonic plates were all grinding up against each other, so you'd be dealing with that as well. Microscopic food, salty thick water to drink, and barely any shelter. Things aren't looking so good. How about air? Could we at least breathe out here? The air was technically breathable, but only for a few minutes due to the low concentration of oxygen before you'd pass out. Oxygen levels were at about 2%, while today we're at 21%, so breathing would be difficult. And there would almost definitely be some weird airborne microbes in the air that our bodies aren't used to and would us if we inhaled them. Not to mention the ozone layer wasn't set to form for another 400 million years, so the sun's radiation would very quickly fry you too. If the heat didn't get you first, as the average global temperature could have been anywhere around 50 degrees Celsius, but they're really just guessing here. The only thing that would be the same as it is right now is gravity, our friendly universal constant. But this is really all just a scientific guess at best. In fact, we're missing about 1 billion years of Earth's history, during which time we don't really know what happened. When dealing with these time timescales of hundreds of millions, billions of years, we look at the geological record for study, core samples, and rock layers. The deeper we go, the further back in time we are, and newer, more recent layers get stacked on top. We can analyze these layers for their chemical composition and find out what the Earth was like during a specific era. But all over the entire world, there's an abrupt missing section of layers, and we have no idea why. Known as the Great Unconformity, best exposed in the Grand Canyon, where you can find Cambrian-era rocks about 500 million years old, stacked directly on top of Precambrian rocks about 1.7 billion years old. That's 1.2 billion years missing, right in the middle of which we'd find Earth 1 billion years ago. Yeah, I know it's a lot of math, but basically we have no clue what it was like.
No clue at all. Shout out to Phil Spixel. That's crazy. Old Earth lore. Ain't no way I'm drinking 1 billion year old water. That lady ain't even tested. It became orange when it hit oxygen. Sounds like rusted water to me.
Ariana Grande just told us that somebody is messing with her mental. Her up top, her brain. They wiping away her memory, y'all. So during the Oscars, a reporter asked Ariana Grande about her anticipated album deluxe to her 2024 album, Eternal Sunshine, where she responded and said she can't remember too much because she's gone through, or she went through, memory erasure. So I looked it up, and now it's kind of making sense. Maybe that's why her appearance is changing. That's probably why she was acting weird in them interviews with Cynthia Erivo. Y'all, this shit crazy, y'all. Look at this.
The brighter days memory erasure treatment to me, so I'm having trouble remembering the details. They're foggy because at the brighter days clinic they do the memory erasure, you know? The memory erasure, they erase my memory.
Her fans like, y'all slow. She just trolling. That's not the case. She can pass it off to y'all like she trolling, the fans. But I know what it is. It's crazy how they can do stuff right in people's face and they be so blind to see that they're telling the truth. She even put it in a music video, but they just like, oh, it's a music video. No, she's trying to explain to y'all what's going on. So in this music video, they're trying to spin it as something with love, like she's trying to erase a person from her memory. But that's not the case, y'all. They removed
memory erasure. Wow. You've heard of it, right? You know what it is. That's crazy. I'm sure that interviewer was like, what? Shout out to Zay Reacts.
They had to shut this thing down. And that's where USAID came in. Check this out.
Let me ask you one thing before I forget. Privat Bank. I understand the governor of the bank is tentative about setting a date certain for the transition to take place, and I'm being told secondhand that, I don't know if this is her position for sure, that she is unsure of a date until she gets an agreement from you. Here's what I've told them. I've told them to get back to her and set a date, and I would talk to you about the date, because this is getting very, very close. What I don't want to have happen, I don't want Trump to get in the position where he thinks he's about to buy onto a policy where the financial system is going to collapse and he's going to be looked to pour more money into Ukraine. That's how he'll think about it before he gets sophisticated enough to know the detail. So anything you can do to push the Privat Bank to closure so that the IMF loan comes forward, I would respectfully suggest is critically important to your economic as well as physical security. I know it's difficult. I know Kolomoisky is a pain in the ass and a problem for everybody, but it really is critical.
Do you guys see what's going on here? We play this one first for a reason. Biden is basically threatening the Ukrainian president prior to Zelensky. Hey, man, your physical security could be at risk if you don't shut this down right away. Notice what he's talking about. He's afraid Donald Trump is going to start looking into the money going to Ukraine. That's what that whole thing is about. He's afraid of Privat Bank specifically, which is a bank alleged to be involved in the payments between Burisma and the Biden family through Hunter Biden. He doesn't want, very simply stated, he is terrified that Ukraine, Poroshenko, is going to start asking President Trump for Ukrainian money. President Trump and his team are going to start looking at the money that went over there and find what? Maybe that USAID funds were involved in the attacks on Donald Trump, the collusion hoax, and the other stuff? You get what's going on here?
And I feel this is where Doge stepped in. This is why Elon is afraid for his life.
Here's everything that's happened since the Trump and Zelensky argument. Pro-Ukraine protests have erupted across America over the weekend, with some holding signs reading "Vermont stands with Ukraine" and "International embarrassment," as JD Vance visited the state for a ski trip with his family. One of the biggest talking points following the meeting was the question from reporter Brian Glenn about Zelensky not wearing a suit, because many are now saying, including Brian, that after his question, the tone of the meeting shifted and Zelensky became more visibly frustrated.
Do you own a suit? A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting the dignity of this office.
I think it's just beautiful. So I have more serious things than answer on such questions.
Despite his girlfriend Marjorie Taylor Greene taking to X to say that she was proud of him, he said that he has since received thousands of nasty comments and DMs from the public, with some pointing out how Elon Musk dressed in the Oval Office. However, Brian maintains that by Zelensky entering the Oval Office dressed as he did, it reflected his inner disrespect for America. Zelensky has defended his choice of military clothing, saying that it's a show of solidarity with fighters on the front lines. After the meeting unraveled and US support looking more uncertain, Zelensky has traveled to the UK today to meet with Keir Starmer and King Charles. In fact, in January, the UK signed a landmark 100-year partnership with Ukraine, which includes a commitment to provide no less than $3 billion in military assistance per year until 2030. A number of European leaders are also gathering in London today for a crucial summit to discuss the war in Ukraine, how to bring peace, and how to bring the US back in negotiations. Oh, and also something that's been resurfacing since the mineral deal between the US and Ukraine wasn't signed. A few days before that planned signing, Putin said in an interview that Russia has significantly more rare earth than Ukraine, and that they are happy to work with foreign partners, including America. Saturday Night Live has already done a skit on the whole situation, and they even brought back Mike Myers to play Elon Musk. Lindsey Graham went from saying Ukraine was the ally he was hoping for all his life to saying, "I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again," just 2 weeks later. And finally, Secretary of State Marco Rubio gave an interview where he said, "You don't see all the things that led up to this."
You guys only saw the end. You saw what happened today. You don't see all the things that led up to this.
As things develop, I'll keep you guys updated.
Y'all ready for this? Scientists confirm the incredible existence of time reflections. Not only does this have implications for legitimate time travel, but it has to do with something called backwards time and the fourth state of matter, plasma. Let me tell you more, because it's very cool. So the legend of backwards time started by a man named William James Sidis. He had an IQ of supposedly of like 300, and he wrote a book called The Animate and the Inanimate. It was about the origin of life and thermodynamics. He predicted that there were regions of space where the second law of thermodynamics operated in reverse temporal direction. This is literally, by the way, the article's about, which I'll tell you. He said the universe has sections of negative tendencies, laws of physics are reversed. Just read the book. I don't want to get too sciencey here. But in this article, it says, if you look in a time mirror, you'll see your back instead of your face. What does that mean? I know, I asked the same thing. And what does it have to do with plasma and time travel? So much. Okay, so there's spatial reflections, where EM radiation in the form of light or sound wave hit a mirror, and they change course. This is how we see a reflection or an echo. But there's another kind of reflection in quantum mechanics known as time reflection. This occurs when the entire medium, remember that word, which an EM wave travels suddenly changes course. The entire medium. A portion of the wave will reverse and the frequency transforms into another one. So scientists originally thought that this would take too much energy to happen. Well, that we could actually observe time reflections and action would take too much energy. But these scientists successfully observed time reflections, proving they're real, by sending broadband signals into a strip of metal filled with electronic switches that were connected to reservoir capacitors, whatever. Time reflection is different, where if you were to look in this mirror, you would see your back instead of your face. If you saw this with your eyes, it would look like colors of light suddenly changing to another color, such as red switching to green. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting and is about plasma and time travel. So I'm writing a book, the link is in my bio, it comes out in a few months, about plasma, the fourth state of matter, and how it is not just an ionized gas. It is the most ancient force in the universe. It makes up 99.9% of everything, and it can transform from your consciousness. It's a medium, an interstellar medium, and an expanded version of plasma As above, so below, the world of thought and emotion is also made up of a finer plasma, that's my theory, a living ether that can be moved and molded and changed by our consciousness and our emotions. So this medium has to do with time travel and loops into the article with what I'm about to say. So back to backwards time. Time reflections could be a mechanism for backwards time communication. The plasma I'm speaking of interacts with backwards time. This could enable our consciousness to access multidimensional states, meaning it could help with intuition. It could help us see different probabilities of our future. We could literally almost like cast out a net and pull it towards us in reality and see where our current choices would lead us in the future. It also directly supports the idea that waves can be manipulated to reverse in time under the right conditions. This would mean consciousness, using plasma, this living ether, might be able to tap into past or future states, explaining precognition, retrocausality, memory, or imprints in the plasma fields. So basically, my whole book is about how you can use your consciousness to work with this backwards time, which is what I would call fourth dimensional. So there's a way, now it's also being proved in science, to tap into this field and potentially see the future or multiple futures. Since time reflections require a sudden and uniform change in a medium's properties, plasma could be the natural medium where this occurs, using our consciousness. So just like they use a medium in 3D reality, they could use this plasma once they figure out how to do that. But we could do it now, using our literal consciousness. This is already what people do who are psychic. The problem is sometimes when you go to psychics, they use their perspective and it's being filtered through their own beliefs. So sometimes it ends up being wrong. Or they tell you that that's like your definite future and forget that there's millions of futures. And they're only telling you the future based on your current choices. So what you forget, and don't panic, is that you can literally change your future by changing your choices in the present and every choice thereafter. So feel good about those psychic things that scare you. Nothing set in stone. Nothing. We live in a fluid, freaking alive reality of plasma. If plasma bridges dimensions, these reflections could be points of interface where consciousness and plasma exchange information. Plasma consciousness synergy is what I call it. This is also in my book, allowing time-bound consciousness to momentarily escape linear time, possibly helping us literally, I say literally way too much, be able to see other realities and have different dimensions of thought. Time reflections could explain the validity of deja vu, precognition, and parallel timeline bleed-throughs, or glitches in the matrix. When you know someone's going to call before they call, moments of synchronicity, dreams that are prophetic and come true. We've all had them. It's not special. This is the gift of humanity, and we have forgotten about it and made it weird and mystical when it's literally just being human and having like expanded consciousness. Plasma could act as a mirror, flipping consciousness across time, much like a time reflection in EM fields. Because in my theory, plasma is outside the electromagnetic field range, but it also holds, so it can work either way. Memory is fluid. Consciousness can operate outside strict time constraints. This is why you can astral project. This is why you can literally think right now of a memory from when you were 3. If we can go backwards, we can go forwards. We just need to strengthen that part of our mind. It makes so much sense to me. Time is not real in that dimension, or it's more everything's happening at once. We just have been taught that we can only think of the past, but we can think of the future. You might call it visualization, but you should start calling it co-creating your reality. And this is why it's so important to get in touch with your heart and your soul, because you want to make sure you're co-creating your future based on your heart and your soul, not your ego. We've all done it. We've ended up in some weird places. So this experiment in the article used metamaterials to trigger time reflections, but I would be using plasma naturally. What if it is a self-regulating metamaterial? Consciousness interacting with plasma could induce these shifts, meaning conscious intention or belief could trigger a time reflection. Effects in reality link into manifestation, synchronicity, or destiny alterations. And my ChatGPT wrote this, but I programmed it too. I'm not just like listening blindly to what ChatGPT says. It just helped me put it into like a linear way because I talk like Kanye West and my mind is non-linear and I make absolutely no sense. That's not true, but I wanted to put this together fast. So could advanced plasma-based technologies be engineered to enhance these effects? Yes. You can also just use your body technology and you don't have to use real technology at all. But for those of you who love technology and futurism, yes, we can also enhance it with technology. For instance, with technology, if we made some type of suit we could put on us, we might be actually able to feel the sensations of that reality versus it just being more sensory and like in our hearts. You could feel it more temporally. I'm telling you guys, this is where the future is going. Watch this in like 20 years, okay? In plasma physics, a plasma mirror reflects light in a similar way to time reflections, as above, so below. So I'm sure it'll work in the way I'm saying, because I've literally done it. And you can too. And I talk all about this in my new book, link in bio. It'll be called A New Force, Plasma, Consciousness, and the New Human Potential. If my special type of plasma, which is just an expanded version of plasma, which basically means a living ether, if it behaves similarly, it can act as a holographic memory field, the Akashic realm, holding the past, present, and future. And a mirror of consciousness itself. Ever heard of the collective unconscious? That is this fourth dimensional backwards time plasma field that we could literally fish into at any moment and grab stuff out. We just have to train ourselves to think this way. Plasma, or you can call it the Akashic field, well, at least in the fourth dimension, stores and interacts with consciousness via belief, emotion, and feedback loops. So it's important to get a hold on these three things within yourself. So basically with this article, I've hooked you in, hopefully, because I'm obsessed with plasma and it can literally change your life for the better. And if this doesn't resonate, move on from it. There's 20 million other ways to do this. I'm just hoping to point you to something that is really cool. The discovery of real-time reflections provides a physical proof of concept that electromagnetic waves, and potentially consciousness waves, can be manipulated and reflect temporally. If my plasma is the bridge between dimensions, which it is, it may already be generating natural time reflections, allowing for multidimensional interactions, memory shifting, and time perception anomalies. It basically just solidifies the proof of telepathy, psychokinesis, being psychic, blah, blah, blah. All of these theories are starting to strengthen my theories. That plasma is the fabric through which consciousness navigates nonlinear time. Memory and belief shape reality by altering the plasma consciousness interface. And that plasma mirrors or sudden shifts in plasma may allow glimpses into parallel timelines, intuition, and precognition. Thank you, William, for first coming up with this. Probably many other indigenous tribes before him. And they would call it dream time. Or everyone. Check out my bio for more plasma stuff and my playlist.
What if Wilson Sardis was in the Tartarian Empire? The man sounds like a genius. Shout out to Dana Kipple.
South Carolina is still burning to the ground as we speak, and we still need to talk about it. Good morning, guys. This crazy camp chick is bringing you some of the latest chit chat about what is going on around this fire. So let's talk about it. Yesterday, a viewer had asked me, do we know where these smart cities are popping up? And the answer is yes. I got you. I got a whole map for you. Listen up, guys. Now, they really think that we are stupid. Before anything happens, you need to pay attention what they are doing because it's broadcast everywhere. So there's a news clip here I will put at the end of the video that you will see. They are letting you know what is coming to a town near you, and you best be prepared and listen, okay? This is what is happening. So what I honestly think is happening in the DFW, or in that area, excuse me, not the DFW, is that they are setting these wildfires intentionally by something called DEW. I need you to look it up. I can't say it on here. So it can easily burn down the area. And then BlackRock comes in, takes it over, buys everything up for cheap, rebuild it, and voila, you get a smart city prison. Now, people think that, electronics are the greatest way, the greatest and latest new thing. But mind you, something goes down, you are left fucking SOL, okay? This is exactly what happened in La Habana, Amarillo, Texas, and of course in Los Angeles. But yet, no one is seeing it, okay? So, this time around, Mark Zuckerberg has his hands in everything. Very concerning, considering that he was at the inauguration. Now, let me tell you, I'm all for Trump, but something is just not adding up, okay? When I see sus, I call it for what it is. And if I'm wrong, I will apologize. But at this point, it's just, the math isn't mathing, all right? So at the very end, I'll put you the map. And this, again, is very concerning. We are still being attacked from within our country, and it's not okay. Something is not right.
Plans to turn Myrtle Beach into Meta Beach. It's all part of making the city a smart city using new advanced technology. Our Ali Espinosa joins us live from downtown Myrtle Beach tonight, and Ali, city staff are actually calling this the fourth industrial revolution. Talk about the ultimate upgrade. So what does that mean for us here in Myrtle Beach?
Rachel, the overall goal is to improve our quality of life here in Myrtle Beach, and city staff say they're working to do that through new technology, and it's all starting right here in downtown Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach.
It's the second fastest growing city in the entire country. From its 60-mile beach to hosting one of the biggest country music festivals, Myrtle Beach is no doubt an area that has a lot to offer, and plans to bring it to the next level are ahead.
What we're looking to do, or what we're trying to do here, is create an urban environment where technology can help us improve our experiences, whether it's the services you receive from your local government, the experiences you have as a tourist in our town or a visitor in our town, but also, how we conduct business with our businesses.
Myrtle Beach Chief Innovation Officer Howard Waldy IV says he's been working to make Myrtle Beach a smart city since March of 2022. They're teaming up with Jennifer Hotai, co-founder of Osverse and Grand Strand Web3 Guild. Their teams are wanting to make the city more advanced to improve the quality of life for you and your family and any Myrtle Beach visitors.
There should be, a virtual 3D room that you can go and experience and be able to interact, see the menus in 3D, be able to go and experience the history of, this of South Carolina, etc. Go and have interactive experiences. I think that is something this whole state in general is lacking, but especially Myrtle Beach, it really should pop out a lot more.
Through more advanced tourism attractions and safety measures like acoustic detection systems, which can detect the sound of gunshots, which have already been approved, the city of Myrtle Beach is working to keep up with what's ahead.
Cell phones. Back in the 80s and the 90s, right, you had the original telephone. Some people had that phone in the briefcase, and now we all carry around these mobile devices that are smaller, but they're essentially computers at our fingertips. Smart cities technology is no different. It's just the next phase of technological evolution.
And right here behind me, the city is hosting an event called Fast Fest, where they're providing free information about smart cities to the community. This event goes until 6 o'clock tonight. Live in downtown Myrtle Beach, Ali Espinosa, WNBF.
And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed tonight's rabbit hole. You enjoyed this video. Why don't you check this one right here? Thanks again. Till next time.